Hey, I'm Alex Newman with the New American, and we have here in the studio with us Pastor Alvin Dupree. He leads Family First Ministries, and he is a school board member in the Appleton area school district. And he's also written a book about some of his experiences. So we're very honored to have him here in the studio with us. Thank you, Pastor, for being with us. And yesterday I had the opportunity to be blessed by going to your church and the opportunity to speak to some of the members of your congregation. Thank you very much for having us. And one of the things that came through really loud and clear in what they were telling us was that there's this kind of atmosphere where the LGBT agenda is promoted and where students are expected to kind of go along with it, and where there's hostility, in some cases even by members of the faculty, against students who don't go along with that, in particular Christians who believe the Bible and what the Bible says about the LGBT agenda or movement or lifestyle, if you will. Could you tell us a little bit about your experiences? You've been on the school board for a little while now. What have you learned about this?
Okay, my first awareness of that issue came about in 2016 when I was contacted by a suicide victim's parent, a young lady by the name of Erica Winkler. She was to be a graduate in the year 2016, right alongside my daughter, who graduated from Appleton North School. She contacted me and she articulated to me that her daughter, Erica Winkler, committed suicide, and one of the factors, of the many factors, was the fact that she felt pressure and bullied within that school for a period of going on 4 years because she refused to participate with the silent day that's hosted. And the purpose of that silent day that's hosted by the LGBTQ community is to raise awareness of bullying. There have been many suicides in the community of LGBTQ because they felt bullied because of them coming out of the closet. So that day is supposed to raise awareness. Or Erica Winkler, howbeit she didn't agree with bullying and would that no one would commit suicide, she just, due to her strong faith and her strong stance, refused to participate by being silent on that on that day that is hosted within the schools. Now, this had took place for a period of 3 years prior, leading up to her suicide. And according to Erica Winkler's mother, who did contact me as a pastor within the area, not as a board member, she contacted me as a pastor to let me know that her daughter, on several occasions, and a few occasions of which Mrs. Winkler had went to the school with her and raised the concern that her daughter was being bullied because of her faith, because of her Christian stance, and refusing to actually participate in that day. And some of the responses that Mrs. Winkler related was that of essentially telling her daughter to, quit whining, or, there's really no issue, you're the problem. And that was essentially one of the contributing factors to Erica's suicide. And just from hearing that is very appalling. And to know that if this day in of itself is supposed to represent anti-bullying, how then could anyone even give the impression, even if we were to say, okay, well, that was her perspective, there should be no perspective from a child and or from the child's parent who's right along there with that child who's raising this type of issue, to feel that there's a nonchalant or a lack of concern because of this agenda being allowed. Now, my personal experience involving that very specific topic, I haven't had any real personal experience. I can express various experiences that I've conversated with other students, and even in confidentiality, due to fear of them losing their jobs, some educators who have raised the concern of not having the freedom to even be who they are as Christians because of the pressure and the atmosphere of this anti-God feeling within the school, and more receptivity to the LGBTQ's agenda within the school. And it's just appalling to know that not only do we have students who feel that pressure, but there are educators who are afraid of losing their job. And they put this pressure within the schools for those of us who have faith to simply just keep our faith to ourselves, or more or less, you go in the closet, while everyone else gets to come out. And I think that's just a ridiculous stance. And I think there's awareness needs to be made of this issue.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about they even came after you, the Freedom from Religion people. You gave a speech and you mentioned your faith. And the Freedom from Religion Foundation came after you and tried to pressure you to get in the closet, to not mention anything about it. It wasn't a discriminatory speech in any way. Maybe you could spend a couple minutes telling us about that experience.
Well, essentially, it was 2 suicides that year, Erica Winkler and Cody Fassbender. Cody Fassbender's parents actually wrote a letter to me because they want suicide awareness to be known. And they gave me a letter as a pastor to my church. And I shared that letter. Essentially, they were saying that they're leaning on their faith for a source of strength. So as one who is an Appleton School District Board member, I felt compelled to tell this graduating class that no matter what they lean on as a source of strength, for Cody Fassbender, it's their faith that they're leaning on for a source of strength during these very challenging times. For me, as a 20-year retired combat Marine, as one who served this country for the ability to have my freedom of speech, one who's been blown up with IEDs to be able to express who I am, I just felt compelled. These are over 500 graduates who are going to enter a world that may not be receptive to who they are. So I told that class, whether they believe in God, whether they believe in trees, whether they don't believe at all, whatever your source of strength is, don't let anyone make you hide that or silence you. Well, the Freedom for Religion organization, after I stated that, 5 months later, very strategically came after me through an individual, I believe, who led the attack by the name of Snodgrass, who I believe is now, for some crazy reason, running for Senate. And I think that's just hierarchy, high power. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. The enemy wants to elevate himself in these positions, and he does that through people who have these agendas to pretend that they want inclusivity, but at the expense of excluding those of us who have faith. So that organization came after me and put pressure on the school district to try to censor me. We reached out to council, and so many, in a story in a nutshell, we found that we were well within my legal right to express who I am. I wasn't trying to convert the class. I was just telling one of many speakers and saying that my personal source of strength was my faith, and that Cody Fassbender's parents, whose child committed suicide, one of 2 that year, it was very much necessary. But the fact that this organization would try to bully me into silence is just appalling, especially when I'm trying to do my duties and my responsibilities to empower a graduating class that's enter into a world that's not necessarily going to embrace them like they were embraced those 4 years in the school.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so you've written a book about some of your experiences. It's called Standing Up to the Systematic Bully, and you talk some about how the labor unions try to filter out candidates that they don't like, maybe who have a biblical worldview. Could you tell us a little bit about your upcoming book and your experience here with these labor unions and their process? Well,
when I initially ran for the board, I essentially put on the, not essentially, I very directly put on the ballot, vote for Pastor Dupree, because I wanted people to know who I am and what they were getting. And there was no hiding that. Well, part of that process, they sent out letters to try to screen candidates, essentially to see what their stance is on certain issues. And through that screening process, it was very clear to me that they were literally venting candidates who didn't have their views on various issues, whether it was Act 10 and very directly as to, what's your stance on separation from church and state and things of that nature. It was a clear venting process. And throughout my time there, going on 2 years as a school board member, I can clearly see that if you don't make it through that venting process, and there's 5,000 plus constituents, varied voters that the school district essentially tells that this person is for us or this person against us, you stand a very slim chance of getting on that board. And I believe that any organization needs some sort of views that are not just like their own. If there's going to be any growth, any type of real reaching every child every day, you can't vent people to see if they think like you, and if they don't, essentially ostracize them and push them out. And that's one process that I'm talking about in my book, Standing Up to the Systematic Bully. And even within that, there's this process called the truancy court that has been abused by those individuals who are in authority. We know we want every child in school, but the methods in which you are talking to these children, the way that they're treated, have people who have been through that process, that I'm allowing their voices to be heard. They're adults now. You can't silence adults, and they're coming with vengeance because they want their story to be heard. And it's just a overall stomach turning system that if we're supposed to reach every child every day and we continue to marginalize, and we got the data that shows that it's been abused toward social classes, ethnic groups, and bottom line, people that they would rather streamline that pipeline from school to prison. I believe, and again, confidentiality, educators have literally sent documentation of concerns that, listen, we need to stop this because we're writing citations for a disciplinary issue that should never be inside of a court system at all. And so I'm addressing that, and I'm bringing awareness to it in the book, Systematic Bully. These are the bullies who hide behind the tree and throw rocks and then let someone else stand out there and take the blame for the rock that they threw.
Awesome. And Pastor, where do we get the book?
It's going to be on Amazon, and I'll have a book signing, book release at 300 North Appleton Street, and more to follow. I'd say definitely look me up on a church website, Family First Ministries, and follow us on Facebook, Alvin T. Dupree. There on Facebook.
Wonderful. Pastor, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
God bless.
Alex Newman with the New American. You just heard Pastor Alvin Dupree of Family First Ministries. Check out the book, and thanks for listening.